Hey everyone, welcome back to the next episode of the Beach Court Podcast. Hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. I'm joined here by Cal Connor, our Toronto Regional Champion. Have you came down off your high yet, man? Or how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It was really good to get the first regional win. I've been searching for it for a while, so it
Yeah.
felt amazing when it finally happened.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's it been like since you've been at home? Does your wife treat you like differently? Does your kid like praise you now? What's it like at
Um,
home now that you're a regional champ? Or is it
it's been
just,
crazy with my
same day?
family, especially because
Yeah.
my brothers have played like for they do the VGC though, but
Okay.
my brother won a regional earlier this year.
Yeah.
So it's like been like a kind of a running thing that I need to win one now too because my
Oh, he
little
won a
one,
VGC?
yeah, he won one in the juniors for the
Oh, that's
VGC.
right. I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, so it's been like a running joke that I need to win one this year, and then I finally did. So now they can't say it about
Now,
me.
now they can't say it. But like, where did he win his? Where was his win?
Baltimore.
Okay, but his was American regional. Yours was a North American regional. So
Yeah,
he's still got that on you, right?
yeah.
Anyways, let's get to know you a little bit, Kyle. You just had a baby recently. Congratulations on
Mhm.
that. How was the baby's first Christmas? What were the cool Pokemon gifts from the family?
It was really amazing. I got a Regidrago Vstar plushie, and here, let me pull it out real quick. I
Oh, oh, live on the podcast. We're pulling out plushies, guys.
My
If
fiance
you're
actually
on,
got me this as well. It's yeah,
yo.
really
That's
sick.
dope.
It
Did
was
you see what I posted? Did you see my thing I posted too? These things are so
yeah,
sick when the ladies do these.
yeah, exactly.
The ladies like these are big hits. We love these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick, man. Got the medal. Hopefully it's hung up somewhere. But what got you into playing Pokemon?
What got me into playing Pokemon is that my brothers, they all did like the VGC for like a long time, just to like begin with. And then actually I got into it like the TCG because I was like going through a mall and there was like a game store and they were having like a league night and they were just giving out like like the promo, like the old
Yeah,
promo cards or whatever.
yeah,
And they were
yeah.
giving out the promo cards and I thought it was so cool and they gave me like a lot of cards and then I was like, okay, now I gotta build a deck and like go back and like play, and then I came back and played, and that's kind of just how I got into the TCG.
So what was the name of the store? Was it a mall? What was the name of the store?
Yeah, it was Uncle's Games, I think.
Uncle's Games. Okay.
Yeah.
That was your first time ever playing. Did you ever play at like Toys R Us as a kid or Books a Million like that?
I played the VGC a lot. I never did the
Okay.
TCG. I
Okay.
did the VGC because they all did the VGC, so I just did the
Sick.
VGC too. I never even knew that there were like I knew that there was cards because I've opened them up before, but I never
Right.
knew that there was like a game to like play with them. I just thought there was like a collecting thing where it was like, you collect the cards, you just show your friends like what are the cool ones.
Right.
Back when I was a kid, it was like everyone wanted like the Charizards. It was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I got the Charizard, bro.
What was your first hit you ever opened?
It was a Charizard. It was the Black Star Charizard one.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
I
just
bet you
found
still
it
don't have it.
recently.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I found it recently. I left it in one of my relatives' like floors or in like in a closet or something. And then
Yeah.
I just like recently found it and I brought it to like a regional and used it as like a V-star marker.
Bro, what's the condition of it? Is it nice? Is it good?
It's okay.
It's okay. All
It's a little sketch.
right.
The
So let
back
that
is bad. The front is okay. The back's a little sketch.
back a little sketch. Okay. Leads me to my next question. What's your favorite Pokemon?
Lugia for sure.
Bro, Lugia, and you've never like played Lugia to a major really, except for
Yeah, I
Silver
played it a few
Tempest?
times, but Lugia is definitely my favorite. But I was always in a conundrum where I was like, I don't want to just play Lugia because it's my favorite Pokemon, but it's
Sure,
like,
sure.
I don't know. Lugia definitely is my favorite.
I mean, the number of people that play Charizard because like it's Charizard
Yeah.
is like very, very high.
Hmm.
Bro, you could have played like a full alt art deck with like the nice alt art Lugia. Come on, man.
Yeah. I just picked up an Altar Lugia recently too.
I'm disappointed in you. What's your favorite Pokemon game? So you said all of your brothers are playing video games. What's your
Yeah.
favorite Pokemon game?
Mine wasn't. Oh, okay. So my favorite game was my first one that I really played like and grinded. I used to like grind that game all the time. It was Gale of Darkness. And it was with the Shadow Lugia. It wasn't even a VGC game. It was like
Huh.
a spin-off kind of one, like kind of like Coliseum. It
Yeah.
was Gale of Darkness, and it had like a Shadow Lugia where you would like purify it, and like that was like the main Pokemon that you like tried to get. So that's like probably why Lugia is my favorite.
And so the name of the game was what again?
Gale of Darkness, I think.
Gale of Darkness. All right, let's do a quick Google. Gale of Darkness
I'm
Pokemon.
hope I'm not saying that name wrong. Let me just double
No, no,
check.
you're right. Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness. $274 pre-owned on Amazon. Nintendo GameCube.
Yeah, that was my favorite game by far. I used to grind that game all the time.
I mean, it's not I mean, it is like an actual Pokemon, name.
Hmm.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, you would
Yeah,
catch the Pokemon and like purify them, and then like the end one, it's kind of like Pokemon Go, like how you purify the Pokemon, like the Shadow Pokemon now. That's literally just what it was. And then like you would fight like the enemy trainers, and then you like basically steal their Pokemon from them, and then like purify them.
that's kind of cool. Drop a comment below if you guys have played Gale of Darkness. That's an interesting game. I've never played it. I'll have to look into that. Last question before we move on to what everyone's here for, which is Regidrago talk. What
Mhm.
do you like to do when you're not playing Pokemon?
When I'm not playing Pokemon, I do like a lot of college work, so I have to like try to like fit it all in between playing Pokemon. But I
Sure.
do play Pokemon for a large like portion of like the day, just in general.
Yeah,
Um, and then between that, I just try to like spend time with family, pretty much.
right. Which Pokemon do you think your child's gonna choose? Which
I
starter?
hope TCG. But my brothers are really trying to get her into like the VGC. I'm pretty
Uh,
sure. I already know they're gonna try to get her into the VGC, but I'm hoping TCG.
what starter do you think that she would choose? What does she
From
seem
which
like?
generation?
Well, Gen 1, right? I mean,
Gen
everyone's got to
one?
do, you
Gotta
always
be
got to do like
Charmander.
you got to do the set up three Pokemon and like
Mm-hmm.
when they start calling and let them choose one, right?
Gotta be
Like that's what
Charmander.
Charmander, yeah. Charmander's OG, see, he's right there and
Mm-hmm.
right
Gotta be
there.
Charmander.
Yeah, you gotta be Charmander. Okay, well, that was fun questions. Now let's talk about boring, awesome, winning Reggie Drago. We had a really large tournament in Toronto, and you were able to navigate your way through a kind of like a hard cut, what I would say. There was a lot
Hmm.
of Drago in cut.
Hmm.
And the mirror can, if you're not practiced in the mirror, it
Hmm.
can get a little, hairy. So later on in the episode, we'll talk about Regidrago mirror specifically. But
Hmm.
first, I want to take a step back, Cal. We've worked together on Snorlax and other,
Hmm.
Gardevoir ideas. You're a really well-known Gardevoir and Snorlax man,
Yeah.
right? And people were kind of like high on Gardevoir and Snorlax coming in, but
Yeah.
you decided not to play either and stick with the best deck and format, Regidrago. Talk
Yeah.
about your decision to play Regidrago. What made you play it?
Really my main thing was in Sacramento, I played Snorlax and I hit just like auto loss matchups where I felt like I had no control over the game at all. And I feel like the format is so wide open right now where like everyone is kind of playing all these different decks and there's
Right.
such like middle percentages where it's like 8% here, 8% here, 8% here, 8%
Yep.
here, and
Yep.
such like diversity in the format where it's not like a format where it's like 20% or 30% of people are just playing this deck. And
Right.
then all the other decks are like trying to beat that deck. So because the format is so diverse and it's so like wide open to where everyone can just kind of play whatever they kind of feel like, the matchups and the pairings within like a 12 round system felt like it's just kind of random. It's just like, okay, you just hit what you hit
It
and it
is. Yeah.
be a random day. So I was like playing Snorlax as Sack and I felt like it was a really good play. Like I looked at the top eight and I'm like, okay, two Miraidons, that's a pretty good matchup for Snorlax traditionally. And then like six Regidrago. And I'm like, man, those are pretty good matchups for Snorlax too. But then I'm like looking at it and I'm like, well, but I couldn't quite get to that top cut or to those top tables because I ended up in 64, which is not bad, but it's a little bit off from like those top tables
Right.
where it's like you can't get to the top table sometimes because you got to get through like the middle
You
field of
do.
like
Yeah.
all the other like kind of like jank decks or like decks that aren't necessarily on the graphic where I was hitting decks like I think Turbo Moon Petrun and stuff and then Cloth was kind of a rising too. Cloth wasn't so much of a player in Sacramento, but then after Sacramento it was like more of like a okay, this is a real deck. A lot of
Right.
people are kind of playing it right now and a lot of people are bringing it. So then I said, okay, well like if I'm playing Snorlax I have to like tech my deck pretty hard to like beat Cloth, which kind of makes my other matchups a little bit worse. Mainly being Drago, I would have to like maybe cut the mist energies for like Klefkis or like Lost
Lefties.
Vikings and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, if my Drago matchups doesn't feel good, and then like now I'm teching to beat Cloth, and I'm like kind of like having an unfavored Drago, it doesn't feel very good because if I'm not like countering the top deck in the room or the most highest percent deck in the room, at least, it feels kind of scary. And then also Zard with Cologne, sometimes it's tricky.
Yeah. No, it really is. I mean, when they play Cologne, Turo, sometimes Palpad,
Yeah,
you
sometimes
know,
Vac too.
and
Yeah,
some
it can get really
and it's
scary.
very hard for you to find like Misfortune Sisters is a cool card. It's a good card,
Hmm.
but like, you got to hit on that card to win those type of matchups. And if you don't
Yeah.
hit, then you just don't win.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, I mean, I think you kind of made it. I mean, obviously you won the tournament, so you made a great decision. But I mean, I think you're kind of spot on that, like, and that's why Snorlax just doesn't ever see that high level of play, no matter
Hmm.
how good of a play it always is. It's not a fun deck to play. People,
Yeah.
people don't like, playing against it. You kind of get looked at as like a villain a little bit,
Yeah.
against the common folks. So I think you made a good decision there. But did you test Gardevoir at all going into Toronto,
Yeah.
or was that not on the table?
Yeah, I did test Guardy a lot. I thought Guardy was in a good spot. I'm actually playing a lot of Gardevoir right now too.
Yeah, you're winning
Um,
a lot of cups with it, bud.
yeah, I've been playing just Gardevoir till my cups nonstop. But Gardevoir is really strong, I think, against all the decks that are not Drago.
Right,
But I just think that all the top players are going to bring Drago. So it's like if I'm beat like I know I could probably beat all the other decks, but then like once I hit a certain point, I know I have to get through the good players playing Drago.
right.
So then it's like, do I think that I can beat a sound Drago player in a best of three situation where they know what they're doing. They're not going to make like some of those big mistakes where like they legacy early or something like that, and then
Right.
they like or they Triforce you and legacy early, and then they have nothing going on, and you can just stamp them, and then they just kind of lose from there. They're not going to make those kind of mistakes, or they're not going to make errors at all in the matchup, and it's just going to be very tough to beat them.
Yeah. Yeah, it is going to be tough. I mean, I think, your line of thinking is similar to where I'm at currently is like
Hmm.
I need to beat Drago consistently and
Hmm.
I need to just play a consistent deck because the format is just so wide.
Hmm.
Furthermore, I think my current stance is I want to play a deck that can go first or second. Do
Hmm.
you do you feel like Regidrago could go first or second, or do you feel like it really depends on you going first?
I think it goes first and second because I think that the Cleffa option, like for sure, gives you a lot of like workable like lines to where you can just say, okay, I'm gonna Cleffa this turn instead.
Yeah.
But like you do have to start a Teal Mask, or sometimes Squawkabilly is really nice too, going
Right.
second,
Motivate.
where you
Yeah.
can motivate and get some energy in play. So I think that there is a lot of lines that are good going second as well. But obviously like going first is just really great because you're like, I'll go first, evolve next turn
Right.
and I attack. But going second isn't the worst sometimes because you can go into that Cleffa line, or you can go into like the Squawkabilly line where it kind of just like cascades your game throughout like the rest of the like time where you can like save those E switches. You got some extra energy in play, especially if they're not putting a ton of pressure on you that like that turn one as well to kill the Squawkabilly back, where you can kind of just cheat to energy and play onto the Drago with the Squawkabilly's motivate, and then the next turn is just like attach, and I'm already attacking now.
Right. And then all your E switches are saved there.
Hmm.
So let's transition. Let's talk about the 60 card list you chose to play.
Hmm.
I think Drago at this point is mostly standardized, like
Yeah.
wildly. I mean, some of the people, some of the inclusions are like, do you play tower? Do you play temple? Do you
Hmm.
play Pokestop? Do you play multiple Dragapults?
Yeah.
Talk about some of the specific inclusions. Let's start with the stadiums. You chose to
Yeah.
play Temple and Jamming Tower and no Pokestop. Talk
Hmm.
about why you chose to play both of those stadiums and, would you continue playing that going forward?
Yeah, so first jamming tower I would say is really strong against decks like Charizard because when you throw it out early against Charizard, they typically play one lost vacuum or one collapse stadium, so they don't have a lot of ways to like really remove it super aggressively. And Charizard really needs to function off of Forest Sealstone a lot of the
Right,
time in the early game. So if you throw it out in the early game, kind of they just get like cascaded. Also, it stops their Defiance, so it stops like them from going Defiance Radzard knockout. And when you go to three, going Defiance, knock out your Drago as well, which
right,
can be really annoying for Charizard. Especially the main thing is the Forest Sealstone, I think, for Charizard. Jamming Tower is really good against Gardevoir too, because sometimes they go into those like aggressive lines where like they go balloon knockout and then you're able to Jamming Tower knock them out. Or even in the early game, if you just throw a Jamming Tower out there, because some of the lists only play like one Artisan or maybe like one Artisan, one like Moonlight Hill. And if they're not playing Secret Box and they're playing like the stamp build, it's kind of difficult for them to actually find their stadium
part of the
card.
stadium. Yeah,
So like if you go jamming tower early, they're not TM Evoing. It's not happening.
yeah, yeah. No, the stadiums early against like Gardevoir could be, even like I was playing Bolt Thorns, to a
Hmm.
local recently, and Drago hit me with a turn one, and I was like, uh,
Yeah.
I can't Evo here. This
Yeah.
sucks, like. Yeah, I think TM Evo is a very good car, and
Hmm.
jamming tower stonks are only going to be going up, here in the
Yeah.
future, as vacuum rotates,
Yeah.
and things like that. But you decided to play Temple. A lot of
Yeah.
people aren't playing it, because they don't really need it for cloth.
Yeah.
But it does help against Lugia. Were you expecting a lot of Lugia, or what was your reason for playing
The main reason that I
Temple?
ended up playing it was for cloth, I would say. Just being able to in the late game go temple plus like
I
bring
don't
up
know.
like a trash Pokemon and then going like Dragapult or Gudra onto it, and then they need a lot that following turn to respawn, knock out you, or to even just like set up anything at all, or to even attack. Sometimes they need to find stadium to even attack, especially if you're not taking a knockout and you're leaving Pheasantipity off. You can just like set up a play where you can go like hit and then the next turn just go like, all right, prime catcher, knockout game.
Right.
And then you need to find like knockout this turn, which is usually going to need like stadium plus boss or a stadium plus another energy or boss or something like that, or
Get out
stadium
of the
plus
active.
glitch out
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that. But it makes
Yeah.
it really difficult for Cloth to win. Also, it's decent as another bump, which is something I like, is that you do have another bump for opponents' Pokestops. I don't
Yeah.
really love Stop and Drago because I feel like a lot of decks just play Stop themselves. So
Right.
like they'll have Stop out there, you can use their Stop, and then you can just be like, okay, now that I've used Stop of your Stop, I can just use a temple or a jamming tower just to remove it and just get it out of play. And now you can't use it. And I've already used your stop basically because so many decks play stop in the format right now. Like
There's a
you have
lot
like
of decks.
Goldango, like all these decks like all play like stop anyway. And even Mirror, like a lot of the time they'll just play stop too. So you just be stopping, just using their stop. And just, all right, now that I've used it, I'm gonna get it out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's a
wasn't
good.
mainly checking for Lugia, I would say, but
He
it
just
is
was not.
good against
Yeah,
Lugia. I
of
didn't think there'd
course.
be a lot of Lugia, but like it is good against Lugia. I was more worried more so about control as well, because with the mist
Oh, with the
energy,
mist.
Pidgeot, yeah, Pidgeot control, it's really easy to abuse them with the temple because it's hard for them to find the bumps, especially if you're targeting down their Pidgeot super aggressively in the early game, or if you knock out the Pidgeot with and then go temple in the following turn, it's a little bit difficult for them to Black Kyurem you the next turn.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, those are some interesting inclusions for Temple. Next, we got to talk about the dragons.
Hmm.
We've transitioned, right? We started
Yeah.
with we started with Tina, Kiram, double Dragapult. That was kind of like the
Hmm.
standard for a long time. And now the standard is kind of like one of each good guy, We've
Yeah.
got the Dragapult, the Tina, the Gudra is coming back a lot. We got
Yeah.
Kiram, obviously, and we got, I think, your favorite one of the deck, the Executor, has
Yeah.
to be your favorite now. So all those are included there. Like, which one of these sucks the most if it's prized? Like if you could choose one of these and like if this one's prized, now your game plan is disrupted. Is it Dragapult or is there any other? Is it
It
fine?
kind of depends on the matchup, but it's usually Dragapult.
It's usually
But
Dragapult.
in Mirror, it's definitely Gudra.
Yeah,
But
Gudra
yeah,
and Mirror. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just for me. I know why people are playing one. It's the best of
Hmm.
three format. I get it,
Yeah.
right? But God, I would hate to search there. You're like, all right,
Hmm.
Gudra and Dragapult are prized.
Yeah.
What do I do here?
Yeah.
Can definitely get tough, but I think it's fine. I mean, did you consider testing any like different counts of dragons or,
Yeah.
what did you try
I
out
tried
before
out
the tournament?
Noivern for a little bit to try to hard counter Cloth, but then I kind of decided that Temple was more of a neutral card against other matchups as well to
Yeah.
try to just beat them. 'Cause I was trying Temple, Noivern. I was really trying to beat Cloth going into this weekend. I've
Yeah.
seen that there was a lot of Cloth like going on and a lot of people were playing it and a lot of people were like just having fun with the deck, I think. So I
Right.
thought there would be a good amount of Cloth, which it did end up on the graphic, but I don't think it was as high as I thought it would be. I thought it would be like maybe third or fourth, and I think it ended up fifth if I wasn't
Yeah,
wrong.
fifth. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that there'd be a lot of Cloth going into this weekend. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to make sure I beat Cloth. But then I decided that Temple of Sinnoh was a little bit better at bumping stops against other decks. Um, and better against Control and better against Lugia as well, which is just like more pluses rather than minuses compared to like just Noivern in general. I think there was a top eight Noivern. Someone did play Noivern that made top eight. I forgot their name. I
Oh,
think
for
it was Owen
Toronto?
Rhodes. Yes, it was Owen Rhodes. Yeah, they got top eight with the Noivern. I was thinking about playing the Noivern
Oh,
going into
yeah,
the
he did play
tournament.
Noivern.
Yeah, but I didn't end up playing it. I also tried second Polt. It was second Polt. The Temple spot was second Polt for a while, and then I moved it to Noivern, and then I moved it to Temple.
Yeah. Looks like he was playing 7-3.
Hmm.
instead of Superior, and then Jamming Tower instead of Simple playing Noivern. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, actually, he didn't play Egg either.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think the egg is
third
really
Iona.
strong right now.
Yeah, third Iona. That's what he played.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, we played Drago to Worlds. I like the 7-2 Fire Slip with the Superior,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, it's fine. I
Hmm.
mean, the three fire, the third fire compared to a Superior is like infinitely worse.
Yeah.
Like Superior is just such a good card. I mean, I even
Hmm.
play it in my bolt list. People are like, "Why are you playing that card?" I'm like,
It's so high
"Bro,
value.
it thins and I get four energy. It's two energy retrievals. Like, I'm
Yeah.
good. Like,
Yeah. It's
this
like
card is so
return
good."
4 card energy to my hand just straight away. And it's like teal. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Well,
draw power too.
in
It's
bold, it's
insane.
teal, conceal, attach. Like,
Yeah.
blow them up. It's so good. So let's talk about Raging Bolt, right?
Hmm.
This is a matchup that historically for Regidrago is a bad matchup.
Yeah.
In your run, you hit four.
Yeah.
Four Raging Bolts. You went 3-1 against them.
Yeah.
You played Vincent Owen twice,
Yes.
once in cut and once in Swiss. You lost to
Mhm.
them in Swiss.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the Raging Bolt matchup. How do you like to address this matchup?
So I think that it's rather close. What I was doing is against all the decks, I was going first, but against turbo decks, I was choosing second.
Right,
Because I think that no matter what, you have to just assume that they're gonna knock you out regardless, turn one. Even if you go first, they're gonna knock you out.
right.
Because that's like what their deck is designed to
That's what it's
do.
built to do.
Yeah, exactly. So what you need to just make sure you have is your best like board. Like, and with the supporter, you especially have the chance of getting to the best board. So I think you want to just have your best board going into that turn that they knock you out. That gives you the highest chance of winning the game. So I think that you want to go into Cleffa early if you can, and then make sure you have another one prizer down so that they can't bundle around you and
Right.
force them to find a catcher or a prime or something like that. Maybe they can boss you if they got enough energy in play, but they usually play like one copy of boss. And I think Vincent actually played no copies of boss, which I did figure out game one as well against him.
Oh wow, did he? Yeah,
Yeah, he didn't play any.
that's wild. Yeah. Oh, he played
Hmm.
Briar instead in
Yeah.
Iona.
Hmm. I did
The
notice that
Briar's
for our
so
first
hard
game
to
he didn't have
use,
boss.
man.
Yeah, I
I
just
like the
realized he had,
vacuum.
he had
I like the
catchers with no
vacuum, but I
boss.
don't like the Briar.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Briar. It's
It's
okay
just so
against
hard to
Bard, I get,
use. You got
but
to play perfectly to use it and like get it.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. But like even if they play one boss, it's pretty low odds that they find it on that like first turn.
Right.
But you force them to go prime or catcher, and if they don't prime or catcher you that turn, you're usually up in the trade because if they take a one prizer, then you're just like egg, and then the next turn you can egg and then Radzard close
Right.
it.
You
Or
can
you can
go
even
ahead.
go Radzard, egg. But like there's a lot of stuff that you can do at that point if they miss that first two prize knockout to come up to come back and just win the game. Also, if they do take the first two prize knockout, there is so much stuff you can do to win the game throughout it. Like
Right.
if they go two, you go two, and then they go two again, knock you out. You can go like for a play where you go like bump your stadium, bring up Fez or something, Gudra it, and then Iono with like Prime or something, and then the next turn go like Vstar for Prime back or Boss or something of that
Right.
nature, and
Right.
then Dragapult the Squawkabilly, knock it out, and then knock out the Fez on the bench. And it does really kind of take a lot for them to get that knockout,
Yeah, I
especially
can.
if they had
That's
like
five
no
energy,
energy
right?
on the
Or
board.
is that six? That's six.
Yeah, they
That's
do
six,
need a
right?
lot. Yeah, and if they bundle to it, usually doesn't work because if you have a one prizer down, so
Yeah.
it requires them to get a pretty good hand off that like Iono to two,
Yeah.
especially if you're bumping stop. So that's where like Temple kind of comes in its play as another bump sometimes because you don't want to waste a jamming sometimes, especially if your like last attack is going to be Radzard, especially if they have charms in play or something like that.
So I have a question for you. When I played Drago at Worlds and
Hmm.
any Raging Bolts I hit,
Yeah,
I didn't find it like that hard. I mean, it can be tough, but
yeah,
my first attachment, if I didn't have to like retreat, with it, was always to Radzard. Do
yeah.
you take that approach as too?
Yeah, sometimes I do think it's right to just go Radzard, where you go like the early attachment on Radzard, and then the next attack is Radzard. I do it if you can go into a different one prize or turd one. So like if you have like Cleffa active, Radzard bench, and then you can
Uh-huh.
go Radzard attach, their most likely line is going to be go for like the knockout on Drago that turn or something
Right,
like that,
right.
or for a two, because they want to stay on 2/2/2 prize mapping, like always. But So if you go attach on Radzard, then it's going to force them to find Gust that turn, and then you go Radzard knockout, and it's going to force them to find Gust again, and
Right.
then you go Radzard knockout again, and it forces them to find Gust for a third time, which is a little bit much. But you do have to be conservative with that play sometimes because it does like sometimes you do need prime or sometimes you're going to need jamming tower as well to like combo with it that turn because of the bravery charm sometimes on the bolts. So that's the only issue sometimes with that play.
The
But if
charms,
you
yeah.
have like prime or if you know you have jamming tower or if you have like a good way to find it without having to burn legacy star, you're usually like okay to set up a play like that where it's like I'm just going to knock out that, they're going to do this, I'm going to knock out that, and then I can just close out the game if they don't find like boss.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. All right, so that's your list. Most of your run. We'll jump into the Drago Mir here in a minute. I
Mhm,
got one last question for you. There's always like a library of cards, you know, that
mhm.
are just sitting right there next to you. You take to a tournament. If you could play a 65 card Regidrago deck, what would those extra five cards be that you would play?
Okay, five. Okay. So the first one would probably be third Iono.
Yep.
Third Iono, I think, is really strong. Because two Iono is just like really powerful at like mounting comebacks. And sometimes you
Right.
do have to like Legacy Star for the Iono back if you prized one or something, or if you had to discard one early, which really sucks.
Could that ever be Palpad instead of Third Iono?
No, I think I like third Iono.
Okay.
Palpad's good, but I
Because like
do
third
like
boss, right? Like that could be like third boss
yeah.
too, right?
Third boss could be nice too. I did have third boss in my Drago for a while, but then I found more value in Iono, and then I ended up cutting Iono altogether because I just figured you can Legacy Star for it back. I don't love Palpad and Drago because when you Palpad back, it goes back to your deck, and then you have to like manually find a way to get it back
Right, right. You don't
compared
play
to where
gears or
it's
anything, yeah.
yeah, compared to where it's like you just have it like that, where you're just like, all right, I got the Iono, boom.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
The next card would probably be Iron Bundle. I think Iron Bundle is really solid. It's pretty good against a mirror match, and it's pretty good against one prize. Like when you want to go for that one prize route, it gives you that bench space back, which is really nice. Like when you pop
True,
the
true,
bundle, it gives you that bench space back. So like if
true.
they miss it that turn and then they like knock out like the active or something like that, you can pop the bundle, get the bench space back, and then now you're already still on the like right mapping where it's like 222 or something like that, and it doesn't really matter. So you're like, okay, now I don't need a like bundle target. It doesn't matter or to like play around their bundle. So it's like I don't really care anymore. Now I can get the bench space back and then put like the most optimal thing down. Usually like a Fez or something or like
Right, right.
something that can like help stabilize you. The third card would probably be Boss. I do like having three Boss too.
Yeah.
Um, which is like it's not like a needed card, but it's like a card that could like really help sometimes. Fourth would probably be second Dragapult. People do like Terra
That low
Orb.
down. You think that low down?
Yeah, I do. I
Wow.
tested it a lot. I think that in a best of three setting for sure, that
Sure.
when you do prize it, it's like, okay, I prized it. I do have all these other attackers that can probably get me through the game to a certain point. But as long as I find it like relatively in a decent amount of time, like let's say that like you take four prizes or something, now I can like work around a plan where like let's say that I can drag a pull to close the game or something like that instead, where I can use like egg attack first or like something like that, or like Garatina or even like Gudra sometimes or even dragon lasers like not an awful attack sometimes. So like you can work around like prizing it and then just like kind of set up to be like, okay, let's just hope that I like get it out of these four initial prize cards because the
Right.
odds are going to be in my favor to get it out. So like I should be able to close with it or set up a plan where I don't have to like use it necessarily in that scenario. But some people do like Terror Orb as well, but I do think I like second Dragapult more just because the risk of prizing it. But there is an argument for Terror Orb or Dragapult, which one's like better. Because I do get the Terror Orb thins an extra card out of your deck, or it could technically get a Teal Mask
Steel
Orb.
mask.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So like I do get that argument, but I do like having the security of not prizing it.
Yeah, same. And what's your fifth card? 65th card.
Fifth card.
Are you ever considering putting Noctowl back in?
Nah, I really hate Noctowl. I'm not a fan of it. I tried it for a while, but it felt like I was using two cards to get two cards. And the main reason why I hate Knocked Owl is because it messes up your mirror match. Because I really feel like you want to use it in mirror so you can save Legacy Star. That's like the main thing. Or you can use it in other matches to save Legacy Star as well. But the main thing I hated about it in mirror match is that in mirror match you usually want to go Cleffa at some point if you like miss or you're down or you want to save
Then they can
something.
just drag a pult. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then they just Dragapult, or they can even just Kyurem you and just be like, Kyurem, knockout, knockout, boom, took two, call it a day.
Put 110 on something else, and then yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it because it's it gets 82 cards, but I see what you're saying. Like you just gotta draw cards and we get there.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, just one last question before we move on to the mirror.
hmm
Because we'll talk about it during the mirror discussion, but I don't want to focus on it.
Yeah.
Just run us through your emotions, like the flip. Like, was there literally any other route you could have taken in that moment?
I was thinking that there was other plays that I could go for where it was like I could set up like the Ogre Pawn with my last E switch to attack with the Ogre Pawn and then go Radzar to close or something like that of that nature. But
Uh,
it's really dependent on them not going for the setting up a second Drago because I know that they're running out of E switches as well to set up the second Drago. They would go Drago attack on me, so I think that if they knocked me out, I had a route to still win with Ogre Pawn hit plus Radzard knockout.
because you were so far ahead, yeah.
Yeah, because they only needed one more prize left, so they couldn't potentially go into a Radzar themselves or something like that, or like
Right.
an Orphan or something else. They would have needed to set up a second Drago, which I don't think they could have done. So I think there was a route, but I did need to find the other E switch that next turn to attack with Ogre Pawn that
Your last
following
one, right?
turn.
It was like your last sweet switch
Yes, it
too.
was my
Yeah.
last one. Yeah, I would have
So
needed to
you
find the last E switch to attack that turn, and then the next turn go Radzard swing, knock it out. But there is a lot that could happen that could deny that from happening as well, like Ionos and stuff like that from them. So like it was a little bit of a tougher spot. I was thinking of that. I didn't have Gudra in my discard, I don't think at the time either, so I don't think Gudra was an option
think
for
it was
me. So I think,
prized, yeah, or
yeah,
no, it was still in the
exactly.
deck. You had just got off the prizes, so it was still in the deck.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So I think that the only option I had in their situation was Egg because I think it was very likely for them to go Boss Prime the next
absolutely.
turn
Yeah,
because they've seen so many cards, especially off the Cleffa and then off of Fez and then Teals potentially. Like I felt like it was almost impossible for them to miss it on the following turn. So I feel like okay, I feel like I just have to egg here, and I this is probably like my highest percent chance of just winning the game off of the this 50-50 chance is probably like the highest chance I have right now of just closing the game out
right.
compared to the other things. Now, and then if this doesn't work out, I have to like try to work in a Ogre Pawn plus um Ogre Pawn plus Radzard play where I go like Ogre Pawn into Radzard, close it, try to finish the game like that.
Yeah, I mean, you flip the coin,
Yeah.
it hits the Mew. The Mew goes for a spin.
Yeah, the Mew did like a 360, which is freaking
Did
crazy.
you realize that in the moment that like the Mew was spinning while the dice was spinning, or
No,
were you
I didn't
like
even see like
locked
anything in the
in?
moment. All I remember is I was like, all right, this is such a big flip. And I'm like, all right, two hands. Let's just pray that this is the tails. And drop it. And it was the tails. And I was like, all right, that's game.
I mean, have you been to the casino since then?
No, I typically try not to gamble, but that day all bets were off.
All bets were off that day. Yeah. Yeah, congratulations on your win. I'm very happy to, be friends with you. We've been hanging out for
Mhm.
a while, and
Yeah.
what well deserved for you. Um, but anyways, have you been to North Florida yet? Have you been over here?
I've been to Orlando before, but that's all I think.
All right. Well,
I want to go to Miami though, but
okay.
I haven't been.
Well, you have to come in North Florida because we've
hmm
got the best anime cafe in the city, in the
hmm
land. Nakam Anime Cafe is a huge sponsor here of the
Yeah.
podcast, and man, there's nothing better on Wednesday nights at League. Just playing at Nakama and like getting some good Asian cuisine and going
hmm
next door and hanging out at the bar afterwards. Man, like
hmm
you gotta come by sometime and hang out in Nakama and hang out with the peeps.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
totally
treat you to a
down.
good time. Well, it'll be full Japan vibes. I'm wearing my Japan shirt today,
Yeah.
so show that off.
Yeah, I love anime. It's like my favorite thing.
Oh, dude, you would love it. There's
hmm
anime everywhere on all the walls. It's insane.
hmm
Like they talk about some animes, and I'm like, I don't know what any of these are, guys. Like I ain't got time for that. Like if it ain't Pokemon, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, so let's jump into today Brent Tonneson dropped a nice video about the
hmm
mirror match, and we were gonna kind of try to do some VOD reviews, and
hmm
it's just a bit too much to do that on a podcast. So I'm gonna run
Yeah.
through some kind of high level questions and let you spew, your brain a little bit and talk about the
hmm
Regidrago mirror, because
Yeah.
for me, I haven't played Drago in a while. When I last played it at Worlds,
Yeah.
it was mirror after mirror after mirror, and I'm like,
Yeah.
God, this sucks. And like, when I played it then, I knew like, hey, like I played Gudra back when no one played Gudra. I was like,
Yeah.
Gudra, like, and like,
Yeah.
so I would tie a lot, with that deck in the mirror,
hmm
because there's not a lot of time to do that.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk about the first burning question. Is it correct to go first or second in the mirror, and why?
Yeah, I think that you should be going first in the mirror. A lot of people have been going second recently in the mirror, but I think that you should be going first in the mirror because it gets you to the first Gudra turn, I think. And then if you Gudra them on the first turn, it kind of puts them in the same predicament that your opponent was in. Because like a lot of the times going second, the thought is like I go into Cleffa, I use Cleffa, and then I usually have a high chance of them not having a gust on the following turn to like knock me out or even to like attack, and then usually I'm having a higher setup. But the problem with going second is that you don't always start Ogre Pawn, so you're not able to actually retreat it into Cleffa. So like if you start Radzard or if you start Regidrago, which is the same odds of starting the starting the Ogre Pawn, but you have higher odds because you do have Cleffa and you have Squawkability, which are one prize things that can move as well.
Mhm.
Or like Fez, I guess, in that scenario. But if you start Regidrago, or if you start Radzard, or if you start Kyurem, or if you start something like that, it's going to be pretty difficult to get into Cleffa. Also, you're wasting one of your nest balls on Cleffa rather than getting a Drago, so you have to make sure you get two Dragos down as well that turn. Because if you only get one down and they kill it, it's like, yeah, I probably lost.
Yeah,
So like you have to kind of get a lot on that turn where it's like I have to get into the Cleffa, I have to find the Ogerpon energy to retreat the Cleffa, I have to find two Regidrago Vs as well, and I have to be in this spot where it's like I didn't start one of those other Pokemon as well to be comfortable in that spot. And then even if like a perfect world scenario happens, like let's say for instance that you get into the Cleffa, you started the Ogerpon, you got down double Drago V, everything is like rolling for you. Your opponent uses rolling iron on turn one against you. It puts you in a really weird predicament where you're probably not taking that two prize knockout back,
right,
where you're most likely going to be Goodring them back because
right,
you need to find you're in like the same predicament that they were in, where you're like, I need to find boss this turn two to get the knockout. Now you do have extra cards off Cleffa, which are a little bit helpful, but usually it's like 3, 4 cards. Now, do those 3, 4 cards help you find V-Star, E-Switch, Attach, plus boss?
boss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
without
absolutely.
using V-Star, which is probably pretty unlikely. So if they roll and iron you that following turn back, you're almost in the same predicament, except for you lost a prize, which means that you're not going to be able to go into Cleffa again in the late game after like the V-Stars are used and stuff like that of that nature are used, and try to come back that way and get an extra turn back. And you're also not going to be able to go to Radzard at the end, where you can go like Radzard sometimes to like swing it and force them not to find boss or prime on following turns when V-Star is burned. Because there's like weird scenarios where you can like put like 30-30 on the Drago V-Stars, or even like go
Right.
prime onto something and then go like Radzard and then be
Hmm.
like, okay, let's see if you have boss or prime. And if you don't have it, I'm probably winning.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a very good, logic. And I mean, going first just seems better with the deck. And,
Yeah.
and so why would you ever do anything different, even in the mirror?
A lot of people went
Um,
second against me in the mirror and they none of them won. The only person that tied me in the mirror was Kaylee White, who tied we naturally tied before I tied against G
oh, that was
Shen.
a natural tie. I was gonna, okay. So you
Yeah,
have
yeah, it
two. All
was.
right.
Yeah, we played it out because they were I was down paired to them, I believe, where they had one
Oh,
less point from me, and that's why they ended up playing Jackson Ford on the
okay.
win it in because they got
Okay.
down paired against me the last round and then tied.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, but they were choosing first too. That was the one that chose first against me. But I think all my other mirrors, or close to all of them, went second against me, but it
Hmm.
didn't really work out.
Yeah, it didn't work out. So you're going first. Let's talk about the prize map. Everyone's always like looking for, a game plan, every game you play. So what's your game plan when you choose first? What kind of
Yeah.
prize map are you looking at in the mirror?
Yeah. So if it kind of changed based off of their board, but typically what you want to ideally do is Gudra to give yourself the most protection on a two prize Pokemon where it's like an Ogerpon or something of that
Like
nature.
relevant 200
Or
damage, yeah.
yeah,
Are you
exactly. Or
ever
an
bossing to hit
Ogerpon.
the Goodrow, or are you just gonna hit the Cleffa with the Goodrow?
I would hit the Cleffa with the Gudra. If you can get a two prize Pokemon into the active and hit it with the Gudra instead, I think you would much rather. But if you can if you just hit the Cleffa with the Gudra, it usually puts them in a spot where they can't actually respond, KO
Right.
your Drago. So they're like in the same predicament where they're like, okay, do I Gudra you or do I just go for the because Boss Prime is probably not happening.
Right,
They're
because
probably
what if they
bring you
Goodra
back.
you, right? Let's say if you Goodra your opponent on your first attack,
Yeah.
and they find a way to go boss KO a two prizer,
Yeah.
are they now on the advantage, or do you have routes from there?
They might be at the disadvantage, to be honest, because if they if they go boss KO on that turn and then you one shot them back plus Iono, it
Uh,
might be pretty difficult for them for the next turn to follow up, knock you out. And then
right,
even if they do, you'd have routes where you can go for like Radzard plus Iono plus like other things where it
right,
can like really put them in a like chalk situation, especially like if they had Cleffa down, because now they can't go one prize throughout the game at all.
right, right.
So they
Whereas
can't
you
go Radzard ever.
you can in that situation at some point you can go Cleffa and regain the lead, right?
Yeah, or you can go Radzard, or you can go like Cleffa into something, force them to find boss, or like you can even go Cleffa Iono and try to put them in the same exact spot. Or you can even go like Radzard Prime, bring something up, and then if they miss Gus that turn, they're usually in a bad spot and they're probably losing. So it puts them in a lot of weird situations where they can't go Radzard back on you and they can't go Cleffa at any more point throughout the game. So
Right,
their prize mapping has to be like 2-2-2, which sometimes is really difficult when you're pressuring them really like hard because if they go for that next knockout on you and you knock out them back, they're probably going to have to V-star to knock you back out that next turn. And then if you knock them back out and Iono them, they're probably not knocking you back out on the following turn.
yeah.
It's probably going to be really difficult for them to do.
Yeah, so how many in an optimal game, let's say your opponent, gets down two Dragos, it's an
Yeah.
optimal game for both of you. How many attacks do you need when you go first to win the game?
You would want it to be three if you can go like 2-2-2, but it might take more, to be honest, if you can go. Also, it kind of depends too if there's two prize liabilities that are under 200 hit points on the
Right.
bench, like Mew or
Like
Squawkabilly.
Squawk, yeah.
Yeah, like if they have to Mew or Squawkabilly, it really helps you because you can Gudra take two and then force them to find Gus the next turn. So like all those things like play into a huge effect in the mirror match. I typically don't want to bench Mew inside the mirror match or Squawkabilly just in general because if you bench both of them in the mirror match, you're giving your opponent Gudra targets where they can Gudra kill it on the bench like with a boss or a prime or something like that, and then keep their Drago protected, which is
Right.
like the worst thing for you. Is like if their Drago's protected and they're taking two prize knockouts, where it's like they took a two prize and their Drago's
With
protected, so I have
Gudra.
to find boss or Gust this turn. And then if I don't, I'm kind of losing this like war where they can
Yeah.
like now go 2-2 or even like find a route to knock me out, especially because the Drago Mirror is like the name of the game is saving your legacy star to the end. So like if you can save your legacy star to the end, you always have the like the last like boss prime. Like you
Right.
always have it.
You
Or you
always
always
have what
have
you
like the
need.
second one. The
Yeah.
second like Drago setup or the Mew setup to use a Drago. You always have games. So if you can get to four prize cards before you use the V star, it's like you're not losing. There's
Yeah,
like
you're
no.
not, yeah. Yeah, saving your V-Star is like the biggest thing in the mirror for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so going first, are we prioritizing Gudra, Tina, or Egg? Our first Ultra Ball,
Against
we're
Mirror.
discarding it. Yeah, what are we getting?
It depends on the situation, but it's most likely Gudra or Tina. Gudra
Okay.
or Tina is usually the best one.
Never
Tina's
Egg, huh?
usually, yeah, probably not egg.
Okay.
Unless like unless like unless like they have like in my game situation where I had like one active, one down, maybe there's sometimes cases where you could egg and you just say I'm gonna go up on the two prize mapping, but you need to have like a strong enough board to say
Because
that I'm gonna
you're gonna get Tina back if you Egg.
yeah, you need to have a strong enough board to be like, I'm going to set up another like Drago without using my V Star.
Yeah,
You can do that. Like if you like say like have like three energy on a Drago and one energy on a Drago on bench, and your board is like stable, it's probably okay to egg first there. But if
yeah,
your board's not stable and you realistically can't get to another V Star without using a Regidrago V Star without using your V Star ability, Legacy Star, then it's kind of rough because then if you use Legacy Star to get to the attack, then you're kind of a little bit playing from behind because if they knock you back out, it's like, how do I attack again?
sure, sure. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Okay, so what about going second? Some people say it's optimal to go second. You say it's
Yeah,
optimal to go first. You won against Callie when Callie was choosing going first.
yeah.
What's kind of like what do you think about going second? Like what do you like to do? You like to motivate more, you like to Cleffa more, you like to um, you know, Dragon Laser if you started Drago. Like what kind of thoughts are you having on going second?
Typically going second, my most ideal thing I would say is to go for a turn where you use Cleffa. Because if you
Yeah.
go to the Squawkabilly in the mirror, it's really annoying if they Goodra you back that turn, because then you're kind of in like a really bad situation. Now, sometimes you do have to Squawkabilly, like if you've burnt, like sometimes there's just those opening hands where you're like, I had to discard three E switches or
Like your
two.
opening hand in game three?
Yeah, where you just have like a trash hand and you're like, I gotta discard like a few E switches here or something like that. And then you're like, I have the squawk ability so I don't waste the V star here because if not, I'm probably losing the game.
Right.
So it's like I have to use motivate to get energy in play. And a lot of people don't do it. Like even in other matchups too, where they're like, oh, I have to burn so many E switches or something like that. Sometimes you just have to play into the motivate turn because motivate is so high value that you just have to do it and just say I'm sacrificing two prize cards to give myself a chance to win the game. But a lot of people don't do it. But typically you want to stay away from it in mirror unless you like have to, because typically like the main thing that you're like going for inside like that situation is Cleffa, I would say. Cleffa is like huge. It's just like giving yourself an opportunity to force them to find boss or force them to find Gudra. And also the main thing about it too is that you put them in a situation where they have to make a decision where it's
Right.
like, do they use the Gudra? Do they use the egg? Do they use
Right.
do they go for the boss? Do they burn their V star? Do they like burn V star to find boss? Do they burn V star to hope they find boss? And
Right.
it's like all these other scenarios where it gives them opportunities to make mistakes. Where it's like in a situation where like they do that and they go for egg and they get heads and they hit Cleffa, it's like you're probably now
Fine.
losing the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. Winning the
Or
game.
if
Yeah.
you use legacy instead and to like try to find boss, and then even if you find boss off legacy, now you might be too far behind because you've wasted legacy or you discarded too many good things off legacy. So it's just like putting them in a situation where they have to make like a really big decision. And a lot of the times for like players that aren't um super well practiced in the matchup, I would say, they usually don't know what to do in that situation. So they'll usually make the wrong decision and then it cascades their entire game
Right.
sometimes.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to think about. That's pretty much it for the mirror. You got anything to add?
The main thing I would just say about the mirror match, I would say, is just like the name of the game is saving your legacy as long as possible. So many Regidrago players, I kid you not, they just like they use the legacy star so
Listen, we
crazy.
like
Like,
drawing cards, man. Just mill
yeah,
your deck.
yeah, they like turn like they'll be in situations where like it doesn't even matter. Like they don't need to legacy at all, and they're just like legacy star. It's like I don't know why we're legacy starring here. Or like a lot of the times too, they'll make mistakes with legacy star, like with Zard especially to get to the Curum. Like
Uh,
sometimes they'll just use legacy so crazy to get to the Curum, and then they'll have like nothing on their board. And then it's like you got stamped or you got Ionoed and you have nothing now. Like your board is it's
right.
nothing.
Right.
Like you kill all their attackers, but it's like they have so much time now to set up because you have nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Save your legacy star, people. So I've got one more question about Regidrago before we close.
Yeah.
We got a new format coming.
Yeah.
The monster Badoo is on the way.
Yeah.
Can Regidrago survive?
I think that it can, but it loses a lot of strength because like the biggest strength about Regidrago is that in the early game it can pick apart like those decks that don't get a setup and you can really rush them out of the game and put them in spots where they're down too many prize cards now to win the match actually. So with Badoo it's just super annoying because if you don't find like the turn one E switch or if you don't find like the turn one like kind of dragons in your discard, it's going to be really hard for you to do that.
Discard them all.
You're
Yeah.
gonna probably be autoing second in the next format with Regidrago.
Interesting. Yeah, that's fair.
You maybe yeah, nah, maybe you don't play Lance, but you probably auto second and you probably just try to get to a motivate turn or get to a turn where you can like get the dragons in there and then motivate or like something of that nature. Because Badu turn two sounds really devastating, especially because you don't get a supporter for turn.
Mm. Are we ever playing things like Poppy or Scramble Switch? Well, that's an item.
Yeah.
What are the other thing? Like the other like are we ever playing like anything kind of cute like that, like Poppy
Maybe Thornton.
or Gardenia's Vigor?
I was thinking
Thor
Thornton. Maybe
Thornton
Thornton because you can Thornton
Teal
The
Mask?
teal into the Drago and then evolve it and then just be like boom attached.
Okay, all right, I
I
can
don't
see
hate
that.
Thornton too much,
I don't hate
and
it.
it also
Yeah,
gets some merit sometimes in other matchups because it removes like those bad like Pokemon sometimes like Squawkabilly or something like that for something else.
yeah.
I don't hate Thornton too much in the deck. Thornton's been something that I was trying recently. I don't see too much. I don't love it too much right now in the deck, but especially with item lock and format, I think Thornton can get a lot of merit.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, well, that's going to do it for our discussion with Cal Connor this week on Regidrago Vstar. Cal, thanks so much for joining the Beach Court podcast. We're happy to have you on. You got any shout outs or sponsorships you want to drop?
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Tabletop Village. They're great. They're a store in Seattle. home base, Seattle, gotta love it. And then FCBC, they do sleeves as well. Another store. They're from Ohio though, but yep.
And where can people find you if they want to get some coaching?
Oh, and if people wanted to get some coaching from me or find me, they can go to my Twitter at Calvin Connor TCG, or they can go to my Metafy as well at Calvin Connor.
Yep. Hey, Cal, thanks so much for coming on the Beach Square podcast. That's going to be it for this week's episode. Next week, we'll have the original crew back with you. We'll be here in 2025. Hope you have a good year.